We live in some of the oldest mountains in the world.
Stolen land, stolen again to create the extraction state.
We are real people talking about real things in a real way.
This is Appalachian Livin.
It's time.
It's time. Welcome to Appalachian Livin, almost heaven, nearly hell, where we are consistently inconsistent.
Sometimes we'll have a podcast. Sometimes we won't.
It
might be 2 weeks.
Paradox.
Sometimes we won't post for 2 weeks, and then we'll be in your face for a month. So here we are.
I had
in
no
July.
idea you were going to start with this comedy routine. I would have prepared some material for this.
No, keep you on your toes. Anyway, I'm super excited that you get to meet
I'm
our
super
guest
excited
today.
to meet these folks, yeah.
I've known him, I don't know, I think it's maybe a year, but it feels like way longer than that, to be honest. But they are our...
Lindsay
What?
calls them Gym Guy and Gym
Yeah,
Girl
so-
because he didn't know what your names were for a while. So
Tom was-
if I have a Zoom, I'll be like, I'm meeting with Gym Guy at 11.
Jim Guy and Jim Gal.
Yeah, so then when I met Laura, okay, so we have Derek and Laura Schell.
Yes.
Welcome.
From Minimalist Gym.
Minimalist Gym, and I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, tell us, what it is that you do, and what can I call you? My fitness coach?
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming on here, for real.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here. This is great.
So,
yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
This is our first official podcast guest spot.
That's so cool.
If we screw everything up and it's unusable, I understand. Feel free to delete it.
Scrap
whenever.
it. That's okay.
The
Never
irony
speak
of that
to me.
statement, given what we've just been through, is big.
We're a hot mess over here.
yeah.
I have 3 cell phones and an iPad trying to make a podcast. So, it is what it is.
You guys are going to do great.
Derek and Laura Schell from Minimalist Gym. You guys we're in West Virginia, of course. You guys right now are in where?
We're in Durango, Colorado currently.
Is that where you live?
Yeah.
Or where you work out of now?
Yeah, we work out of here. So we're both originally from the South. I grew up in Western North Carolina. Laura's from Eastern Tennessee. So definitely no strangers to the South. We moved out here about, 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
So just a little bit of background on our business. We are mostly online based, but we do have some in-person clients here locally. But really, in a nutshell, we help essentially busy 40s, 30-year-olds, mostly parents, people that just have a lot on their plate. They're working full-time, they're raising a family, have a lot of responsibilities, and have sort of just lost touch with taking care of themselves. Maybe due to a lack of education around nutrition and exercise, or just not really having the time or the knowledge of how to fit it into their busy lifestyle. And so that's a lot of what we do. Is we provide strength training programs, we provide nutrition plans, and honestly, beyond that, a lot of what we do is just helping people with their mindset, helping people sort of structure their lifestyle in a way that is a little bit more conducive to better health and better fitness. And in a lot of cases, it's a case of where people are sort of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, where they have an idea in their head of what they need to be doing in terms of how much time they need to be allocating to working out, or like what types of foods they need to be eating, things like that. And it just doesn't work for them, because they've seen it on the internet, or because somebody in their family or a friend or someone that they know has done it this way. And so we just help sort of customize everything to the individual person, and help them understand that what you can do now is far better than, trying to aim for perfection and then falling off the wagon completely. And so that's a lot of what it is just kind of building out, personalized plans for people, and then sort of coaching them through that process.
Yeah. A side note, too, we actually we had a stint where we lived in Lewisburg, West Virginia
Oh, cool.
for a hot minute. So Yeah. So we love West Virginia.
You were a guest or you had an internship at the Greenbrier, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So
Hoity-toity.
we were living in Charlotte at the time, and then I finished culinary school, got a culinary internship at the Greenbrier. So that was my previous career. Worked as a chef and a restaurant manager for most of my adult life until the past few years. So we spent about a year in, I guess that was Greenbrier County.
Yeah.
Up there, Lewisburg, White Sulphur Springs area. So definitely have some knowledge of West Virginia, and definitely we're rooted in the South as well.
Well,
so.
you're rooted in Appalachia. Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee is
Appalachia.
That's Appalachia. Okay.
The heart of it,
Yeah.
central.
Yeah.
Literally central.
So, I mean, you understand.
The accent, too. You can't deny the accent. And I'm sure in Colorado, it's the biggest novelty around. Folks are like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. As soon as you meet someone,
We
where
sound
you
like
from?
banjos, for
Yeah.
sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
I get called out every time I speak anywhere. People are very curious as to where I came from.
Yeah, I did that when we lived. The first 2 years we lived in Florida. The first time I met someone was always, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Because
West Virginia.
We've talked about this, like mountain accents are different than southern accents, right?
Yeah,
and so,
definitely.
and my accent is weird because I've tried to get rid of it for many years and then let it come back very organically. So it's actually much thicker now than it's been in a long time.
Yeah. Well, it's even Derek and I regionally, his accent is a very like slow Carolina drawl, and mine's more of that like Tennessee twang. So it is funny.
Absolutely.
It all just
Absolutely. The
depends on, like, where
dialect.
you are.
Yeah.
Well, even
Yeah.
different counties and towns around here have a totally different.
Sound.
How you say MacDowell? Mango.
I say
I can tell you're
McDowell.
from different places,
Yeah.
right?
Lindsay's dad is from a place in McDowell County called Bradshaw, and it is different than any accent you're ever going to hear, because it's way back up on the mountain,
Yeah.
and talking to him, you gotta have a little mountain
Imagination.
background to even understand what he's talking
You
about.
got to know, like, he used to call us lads, It'd be
funny,
like, you lads get out of the creek, you lads come here. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's
Who
Scotch
says that,
Irish,
right? Like, that's a-
Yeah.
background is
Totally.
yeah.
yeah. So
that's
there's,
interesting. I love that.
How did you
I
all
love
meet?
hearing it. I love hearing you guys talk too. It's like, home,
Right.
I appreciate that, because I've always hated my voice my entire life. And I never thought in a million years I would do anything like this
I think she has a great voice.
voluntarily.
You guys, you and Tom both have like lovely voices. They were
Without
like
doubt.
meant to be like listened to.
Well,
on some-
Absolutely.
I think I've tried to, what is it? When you try to work on your voice a little bit.
You're
And
trying to code switch is what it is, right?
Ooh.
The hell you say?
There's code
That's
switch.
fighting words at this table now.
You code switch. When you're talking to somebody from out of town, you say,
Right.
yes, sir. You'll find the Easy Stop right here on the left as you go into Pineville.
Whereas
Totally.
somebody
But if
locally
you're-
would be
you're like,
down
hey, bud,
yonder past the.
Oh, we at the Easy
Yes,
Stop.
totally.
You go on down the Easy Stop there
No,
and take a left.
No,
and
you
you'll
go.
see
You
it.
go down where Lackey's used to be.
where
Remember?
Latches used to be.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. So
I'm hearing it.
and when I was in Florida, I've been in broadcasting a long time, so I've learned the art of non-regional diction, right? And because you're supposed to drop that accent, especially if you're in news. And so I would talk like this most of the time, and then I'd see a good old boy next to the road, and I'd have a reporter with me, and I'd be like, "Hey, buddy, you know where the state fairgrounds is down here?" And she'd be
Totally.
like,
Right.
"Who are you? Like you were a totally different person for like 5 minutes."
True.
Totally.
But I'm
yeah.
local for in those 5 minutes, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
from here when I
Yeah.
switch into that dialect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, or like different emotions bring it out. Like if I'm being sassy, it definitely like comes out, and people are like,
Mad.
"Whoa, where did that come from?" You know, or
when you're
whatever.
upset or mad or like maybe
Right.
super excited, it'll come out.
Yeah.
But
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know, because you were looking at me all weird. The hell? Don't look at me. Don't you look at me like that.
So we got off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Anyway, you all are trainers, right? And Derek, you have been training me for about a year now. It seems 8-9 months at least, and I can attest. Minimalist Gym and Derek and Laura both are super easy to work with, and will cater everything to like what we have. Like I sent pictures of the equipment that I have at my house because I hate going to the gym. I was bullied as a kid, so going into a gym
It's a lot of anxiety
of any kind like gives me like high anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like the going to the gym like culture. And it's probably just past trauma, right? Like nobody's going to say anything to me. There's no judgments there generally. But I'm more comfortable just doing it at home, right?
But some people do like going to the gym.
Right.
So I bet, you guys have to cater to what people, would prefer to do.
Right.
Or have the resources, really. I guess it's what their resources are.
So, I mean, like I said before, I think a huge part of why what we do is a little bit different is that individual customization. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed. They look at fitness and think that it's kind of a one-size-fits-all thing where you got to go to the gym 5 days a week. You got to eat clean. You got to limit your carbs, limit your sugar, limit your alcohol, or cut all those things out. And that's overwhelming for people. It tends to be unsustainable for people.
Right.
And so we want to meet people where they're at. Whatever you can do is going to be better than doing nothing. And so if that means home workouts, if that means even just doing 20 minutes a day of body weight exercises in your yard, in your living room. And that's how I started. Hey,
So the name Minimalist Gym. Go.
Yeah. So the name Minimalist Gym was essentially born out of my own transformation journey. When I first started getting more serious about it, it was 2020 during the COVID pandemic. All the gyms were closed. And so really I had a decision of use that as another excuse or just make it work with what I had. I had a couple sets of rusty dumbbells laying around my in-laws' property. I bought a set of resistance bands and just did workouts outside with what I had. And that's where it really clicked for me. Prior to that, I used to be the guy who thought I needed to go to a gym with all the equipment and no other distractions and work out for an hour plus in order to really get results. And that experience really kind of broke the mold for me and helped me realize that it's really more important that you just do something consistently. Obviously you want to progress over time, but, starting with what you can do with what you have. And I love home workouts now. It's actually my favorite way to work out, even though I do still have access to a gym. And I do enjoy going to the gym, but we eliminate so many excuses by having stuff at home. You've got the commute to the gym. You've got the fee for the gym membership. You've got, dealing with crowds, waiting for equipment, all that stuff. And I find that it's much easier to just say, hey, I'm going to go down to the garage and do 20 minutes of something. And if that's all I end up doing, that's better than nothing. 9 times out of 10, I'll get down there. As soon as my body temperature starts warming up a little bit, the sweat starts rolling, then I'm in it, and I might stick it out and do an hour. And so if it was a matter of me having to get myself together, change clothes, get in the car, drive to the gym, that's probably not going to happen. So I think the more of those barriers that we can remove for people, the better off everyone's going to be.
I agree.
Sure.
I agree so much because I hate going to the gym as well, especially as a woman. And I'm sure you can attest to this too, Laura and Elise.
My sister's name is Laura, so it was interesting when you said that. You're like Laura and Elise.
Yeah.
Put it together.
But,
Yeah.
Before COVID, we were trying to be, in shape, and we had a free membership to the Y, and it was like right next door to our work. And so we were going a couple times a week, and I was feeling really good. And then COVID hit, and I was like,
Took the
damn
momentum
it.
right out of it.
Oh,
didn't it?
every time I get going, the momentum is good, and then something happens and it knocks me down.
Totally.
And
Totally.
so then we had like a treadmill. We dusted it off. We took dirty clothes off of it, or clean clothes off of it. It's where we
Right.
hung our clean clothes on it, and we started walking. And then when I got with you guys, like the first 2 months or so, you helped me with mobility, and I didn't need anything. I didn't need maybe just a soft place to, like a mat to sit on, or carpet or something. But it was all basically just mobility, which in turn made some of my muscles stronger. And then in the meantime, we were working on protein and getting enough protein. And honestly, you guys made me eat more than what, because I was like, I'm really sick and tired of trying to eat. I'm tired of trying to eat.
For sure. Yeah. I know, which is crazy. I think too, especially for us women, especially for women around our age that grew up in the 90s.
Yes.
To me, it was very much like skinny equals healthy, right? So what do I need to do to be skinny? I need to not eat like ever.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of calorie restricting, a lot of, running, like high intensity stuff that honestly, like your body needs nutrients. It needs protein. It needs to build, especially for women as we get older, we need muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's going to lead to bone density loss, muscle loss, all of those things. So really, I think rethinking about what we're eating, especially for women, and the amount that we're eating. Because I think what we don't realize is, we constantly try to restrict, but we're restricting like the wrong thing. So like we're needing more protein, we're needing more nutrients, but instead it's like we're restricting crappy food, right? Like, all we're eating is crap. And then we're restricting that to where we're barely eating, instead of like, hey, if I ate all, nutrient dense foods, I could eat a ton of food and still be fine. Mm-hmm. And it is when you start eating protein like that, and you really start hitting those protein targets that you have, you realize, oh my God, I'm eating so much. That's a huge thing, is when we first start with people, especially women, they're like, I can't eat anymore, because they're not used to eating. They're used to starving and then binging on crap. Starvation is going to lead to binging on crappy food. So, and protein is so satiating and filling and all of those things, that once we start eating like that, it's shocking, like how much you can actually eat. And then it kind of reprograms your brain, like, wow, I can still eat and not gain weight, because especially for women, we tend to live and die by the number on the scale,
Oh God, I hate it. I hate the scale.
And when
oh my God, yeah.
I had a baby at 37, and I always was really fortunate to be tall and have a great metabolism, so I didn't have to, I would go to the gym and work out for like a month, and I'd be fine. Like I'd drop whatever weight I'd picked up, but having a baby at 37, it was like throwing a cold bucket of water on my metabolism, right? Like everything just slowed to a crawl. And I was really glad I was mature enough to let my body do what it needed to do to take care of my baby. And I wasn't under pressure. I remember I told you my friend saw me after I'd had Edward. He was 3 months old. My friend put his hand on my stomach and said, "So when is your baby due?"
Oh.
And he, to this day, is like, that was the most mortifying moment of my life. But I told him, I said, I was a mature enough person that it didn't bother me. Like I didn't take it as a hit to my like self-esteem, because I recognized my body was doing the best it could. And when I started losing my baby weight, I plateaued at like 188 pounds, and I couldn't lose any more until I started eating more and better and more protein, because I shut down my metabolism again. I was in that starvation mode, and it was just hanging on to everything it could. And when I busted through that, I dropped 20 pounds in like a year and a half, and everybody's like, "Oh, you look great." I'm like, yeah, I finally stopped depriving myself and started like paying attention to what my body needs.
And it seems very counterintuitive, right? Like,
because we're raised in the 90s. I really think that how we were programmed as children and growing up, and we were of the era of the food pyramid, right? We were the era of a lot of nutritional guidelines being handed down to us. So we had these expectations that we constantly failed to meet. And then we had all of these beautiful skinny women on Friends in particular and other, sitcoms and all of this media around us.
And supermodels.
And then what also happens is body dysmorphia out of that too, right? Because you don't perceive yourself in a realistic environment. And Lindsay and I have talked about that as, women our age, how we think of our own bodies is often very different than how other people see our bodies and how they really are, and how do you all do you experience that in your work? Do you work through body dysmorphia with clients?
Listen, I experience that myself. Right? I think it's not perfect.
I think we all do.
I think we all do when we talk about that. Even us who have a handle on nutrition and all those things, there are days where I look in the mirror, I'm like, no, what? Like, I've been working out forever. Like, why? But I think your mindset kind of has to change around it, because that is probably the number one obstacle, I would say, period. Would you is mindset?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like we see it pretty across the board with males and females, honestly.
Oh, I feel
like we all probably have
Mm-hmm.
some form of body dysmorphia, and you tend to, no matter how good a shape you're in or perceived to be by other people, you're typically always going to have higher standards for yourself. And I don't necessarily think that's bad. I think it's a good thing to want more for yourself and to push yourself, but also understand the reality of it, and give yourself some grace.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that you're doing the things that need to be done to be the healthiest version of yourself. I think where the trouble comes in is when we start really comparing ourselves to others.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously that was a thing back when we were kids too, when we had magazines and the TV shows and stuff. And I think it's just gotten even more in your face now with the emergence of social media. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have a teenage girl these days who, is looking through Instagram, and getting, information on how, society, quote unquote, she thinks society thinks she's supposed to look. And so I think a lot of that gets into people's heads, and that's where it can, really be more problematic. So definitely a lot with our coaching, there is, a lot of talk around, how you talk to yourself, how your inner monologue is. It's okay to want more for yourself, and it's okay to push yourself. But, if you wouldn't talk to your best friend or a family member the way you're talking to yourself,
right,
then it's probably not healthy for you to talk to yourself like that. And we talk a lot about becoming the best version of you, and not trying to look like,
right. Because we have a lot of clients that will show us pictures of bikini models and stuff.
I want to be that.
Right. This is my expectation. You're like, okay. It's pretty wild. I think just trying to get folks to understand the best version of you is not necessarily going to be of someone else. Right.
That was really a changing point for me too, when I started to honor my body.
Yeah.
I started to recognize how strong I am, and instead of seeing weaknesses, I can't do a pull-up or I can't do this, I was like, no, but I can move a freaking refrigerator if I, do it right, and totally. Then learning too that my body did something amazing, and not to expect it to be anything other than what it is, but it's taken me to the age of 45 to talk to myself like that. And that's been a recent development. Yeah. And I think
for a lot,
it is for me too.
Yeah. But it was definitely part of that paradigm change, and it helped me appreciate myself, be less critical, and then say that, my heart needs protein. My brain needs fat. These are things that I've been taught to take out of my life. And also the me that loves freaking candy and junk food needs that sometimes too, right? And if I make my metabolism hot enough and a big enough bonfire, then I can throw a big log on it, and it's not going to sit on me as extra weight, right? I can have those moments, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, this week, and he had to show me like a side by side of what I looked like a year ago. And he's like, listen, your body composition is different. If you look here,
Right.
you know,
Your
you can
shape's
see
different.
you can see the muscle. You know, sure, you've got some body fat still there, and it's hanging around. Part of that is, you know, I have a problem with food, but
I like sugar, man. It makes me
you know,
jiggly sometimes.
carbs are my friend. But and I tend to think, hey, if it's got protein in it, it's fine.
Peanut
And,
butter?
you
Are you
know,
talking about
I'm
peanut
trying
butter?
to-
No.
I'm trying, you know, I'm doing my best. But, you know, and he kind of is like, hey, look at these two pictures. They're drastically different. And then every once in a while, I'll see a Facebook memory of when I was 300 pounds. And, like, the shape of my face
Totally different.
is
Completely different.
completely
Totally different.
And
Yeah.
you knew me back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, Lindsay has been here forever. So, you know, she loved me when I was 300 pounds. And, you know, so, you know, it's that you, and this stuff takes time, right?
Yes.
And my dad always said, you know, time, patience, and perseverance, and you can do anything. And I didn't really understand what he was telling me until, you know, I was almost 40, and I figured that out. But yeah, I think it affects all of us, you know, especially if you're, you know, trying to improve yourself, right? So yeah.
And bone density,
Yeah.
too, is another big thing. Do you all?
I wanted to bring, because Laura brought that up, and I'm so glad that she did, because a lot of women do not understand how weight training and making sure that
Yeah.
you keep your muscles strong and build those muscles help in your later years to be able to get around better. And I went hiking with Laura Lee the other day.
And
Sister.
that's when we say hiking, I think it's important because I've lived in Colorado. There's a
I can't
difference.
hear you. Get
There's a
closer.
difference
Okay,
between
okay.
what happens in West Virginia when you hike and what happens in places like that when you hike. And we're not hiking here is a much mellower experience than it is in Colorado for a number of reasons. But there are intense hikes that are very challenging,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily altitude wise, but rigorous in terms
yeah.
of, you know, terrain. Elevation changes, and so
Also, they kept building new trails, and the map was not.
the map wasn't accurate, and it's the
Accurate.
middle of the damn summer.
It was the middle of the summer. It was 90 some degrees. But one thing Laura Lee said to me, she goes, because, you know, y'all know, everybody knows I had cancer. She goes, you're getting around really well. You look really good. Like, you look strong. How far do you think cancer knocked you down? And I'm like, I always say, it knocked me down a peg. And that must be like I don't know if that's an Appalachian
That's one of your
thing.
dad's sayings,
I
lad.
guess. So, like,
Knock you down a peg.
and so, you know, it knocked me down a peg. So I can tell that I'm not as good as I used to be 4 years ago, 3 years ago. But I still got it. I could still do
Damn
a
right
push
you
up.
do.
Yeah.
And the only reason we turned around was because I knew how far down that hill was. And because I looked at Laura Lee, and we got turned around I don't know how many times because they keep building new trails and the map is not up to date.
Yeah.
And we went to a dead end. I was like, I don't know. I'd never seen this place before. So I was like, we got to turn around. I'm getting too hot. And I knew I was getting too hot. And plus medication, people have to, like, if you take certain medications, you can't be out in the sun for that long. And I'm having to realize that.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, I'm not as young as I used to be, and I can't do the things that I used to be able to do. But
Yeah.
I'm still pretty strong because you guys help me. You're helping me with mobility. And even like when I fall off, I'm like, I haven't eaten right. And you're like, it's fine. You're going through some stuff. You know, it's all right because you're stressed. You got a lot going on. Really take it easy. Try to get protein, try to get some steps in, movement, you know, stuff like that. It's not like, you need to make sure you're hitting that protein and you need to make sure you got them steps in, And I mean, I even asked Laura, I said, could you please yell at me? Could you be still? Could you say, you need to work out today? She's like, look, if you're not feeling it, you don't need to. I'm like, yell at me.
Yeah. Well, see, different things to motivate different people, right? So some people are like, give me some shit,
I need it. Yell at me. And some people are like, why are you yelling at me? Don't yell at me. I'm doing the best. However, there will be a day when she yells at me. I'm like, don't yell at me.
Totally. I have other clients that are like, please don't get mad because I didn't do this. And I'm like, So you do kind of have to coach people differently.
So you're part therapist as well.
That's what I'm hearing is you have to break these mental barriers, which is like a therapist, psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and especially food can be such an emotional thing for people too.
Oh my goodness.
It really can, and body image and all of those things are really difficult to navigate for sure with a lot of people.
But your background in the restaurant industry, Derek, it struck me when you said that, because managing restaurants and being a chef is difficult.
Very.
Any type of management is difficult. Food service is particularly difficult. But I'm interested because, number one, I think the nutrition, of course, plays into that, right? Like you all are able to craft nutrition differently than people who don't have that type of training. But the psychology of like running a restaurant and dealing with all of that stuff, can you just kind of draw some parallels between that and personal training and like kind of the psychology of breaking down and understanding and how you manage each person individually, basically based on their situation?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely very similar. And especially as I got higher up in the culinary industry, I found that I was doing less and less actual cooking and more just management, personality, and putting out fires, and both literally and figuratively, and hoping that people show up for work and things like that.
As food service, what do you call it? Alumni here, I think we all understand, right? It resonates, and so how that transfers is pretty interesting.
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I feel like somewhat, a lot of my formal education, I don't know how much of it transfers over. I did take some psychology classes in college. My degree's actually in sociology.
Oh, interesting.
Mine too.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that tracks, Lindsay. That tracks for
totally
sure.
tracks.
I
took one sociology class and dropped it.
I just feel like some people should listen to me. I'm just saying.
I was one credit away from a sociology minor just because
of her.
We would take the same classes, so we wouldn't have to buy two different books.
So smart.
Oh, we needed hours.
And so she actually got a minor in
I'm
broadcast.
like an hour away.
Yeah, in broadcast communications, which is what I have.
And PR and advertising.
And so so we kind of cross over, and now we kind of do both as a profession.
Yeah,
I love that. That's
right?
so great. Yes.
So, yeah.
I would never want to do any sort of chefy thing ever. Like
it seems so hard, and I watch shows. I watch Top Chef and those kind of shows, and I go in the kitchen and pretend and cook things and make things.
I was front of the house. I didn't do back of the house.
Laura, what's your background? We didn't cover that. What did you do something before you did the nutrition and gym stuff?
I did a lot of hospitality, like management stuff.
I almost have a minor in that too.
Passionate about you. What did you say?
I'm sorry. I said I almost have a minor in that too.
Yeah, I believe it, girl. But yeah, nothing I was like super passionate about really. Just kind of paying the bills,
Right.
So, but mostly in hospitality, and then Derek and I actually had a meal prep company for a little while before that just kind of morphed into this nutrition coaching. So I was in the kitchen a lot, and I fucking hated it. Like, not for me. And so that just kind of morphed into like what we're doing now. So
that's awesome.
But I have worked in restaurants for sure. So I feel the pain of everyone sitting here that past. We're all trauma bonded with that, I think.
Yeah. It's entertaining to watch the bear, but I don't want to be in a kitchen, PTSD,
right?
I have the, that what is it, nostalgia, right? When I'm watching something like that, and I'm like, yeah, I remember that, the camaraderie and the craziness and all of that. But then I can change the channel and watch something else, You don't have to live in there, You
don't have to close down and count your money.
Close. Oh, my God.
Well, what's funny too is when Derek was a chef, I feel like that was maybe as far as health and fitness, that was probably your least healthy
time.
Right.
Time because of the
eat on the run.
hours and the stress and
you burn the candle at both ends. It's just that's the nature of the beast. And so there was something that I wanted to add to, and as women, you're going to know a lot more about this. And I have heard over and over and over again that women don't want to weight train because they don't want to get too bulky.
Yeah.
There's a tick right there. We have a tick
Living
crawling
in
on the
Appalachia.
mouse.
I'm
about to get rid of this tick, but go on and talk about that because it's impossible for you to get too bulky, right? Unless you work out incessantly and you're on steroids. Right? Like, well, it's almost impossible.
There are people with the genetics to build muscle like easily, right? Yeah, or you're one of them. Yeah.
Because a girlfriend of mine one time when I was in Houston, I was working out a lot.
What happened?
Oh, he clicked the mouse, maybe.
Oh no!
Tom, join now. Just click join now.
Oh no!
Join now.
Join now. Hey.
Okay, we're back.
Hey,
we were evacuating the tick. Yeah, and he clicked the mouse.
There was a tick on the mouse. And
look, this is
inadvertently clicked. My bad.
This is Appalachian Livin, y'all. So sorry.
So after law school,
everywhere, it's all good.
I was I lived with someone, and I was working out a lot, and I told her, I said, I don't always see my body as it appears, so if I get too bulky or look like I'm getting super pumped, let me know, because I am able to build muscle. I do have one of those body types that's just natural for me. And I told you about the time I came in the kitchen. I woke up in the morning and I go over to the cabinet and open it and get my coffee cup and pour my coffee, and I sit down, and Jamie looked across the table. She's like, I'd lay off on the arms. And it was it wasn't like, whoa, you're getting too big. It was just like, you are getting muscular. And I was on what I was doing was an elliptical machine with weights. So I'd take my hands off the handles and you do the weights while I was doing my entire core, and I was building massive muscle while I was doing it. So some body types can, but I didn't look like a bodybuilder by any means. This wasn't like a steroidal thing.
Well, that's what I think is the idea in a lot of people's heads, is like that big steroid, like super bulky person. I've been working out for
like
20
years
and I can't get there. So,
right.
So it's not easy. It has to be very, very intentional. You have to train like crazy. You have to eat a ton of food.
I was going to say, you have to hit your protein in order for you to get bulky.
You probably have to go beyond hitting just your protein, so it's like something I think for the lay person, we don't have to like worry about that unless your whole life is trying to be a bodybuilder, right? And even that's not super healthy, right? Just like skinny does not equal healthy, muscles don't necessarily equal healthy either, right? So yeah, I just feel like a lot of people do have that in their head of like women, especially muscle builders. I do think it's getting more popular now, which is good. I like to see, because I think muscle building is probably the best thing as women as far as training we can do for ourselves, instead of like especially as we're getting older, we don't want to be pushing so hard and stressing our bodies so hard. We don't need to do that. And again, unless you want to, be a marathon runner or like something that you're training for, like the lay person just doesn't need to go that hard, and it's not super sustainable. But yeah, and it's just not really going to be possible to get crazy bulky lifting weights unless like you just have the genetics for it, and
right.
So
I would say
building muscle is pretty hard. You gotta, and like Laura said, people who dedicate their entire lives to it, who are not where they want to be muscle building wise. And I just want to add on top of that, I do think I think there's more women strength training now than there ever has been before. And I think we're starting to see sort of the social norms change around that. Not that we all need to be just following whatever is socially acceptable, but for women to be more muscular and to be stronger, I think is much more accepted now than it
Healthy.
used to be, and I think
Yeah.
and healthy, and I think that's a positive step. Just from a functionality standpoint, I think it's great, and I think if you can kind of shift your mindset away from freaking out about getting too bulky and more looking at it as, well, I'm stronger now so that I can move these 50-pound hay bales or whatever without having to go get somebody to help me. That's very empowering.
Yeah, do farm girl shit, right?
Like farm girl shit.
Yeah, Lindsay says she wants to do farm girl shit. So
Yeah,
It's legit.
exactly. And that's what keeps your ass, from being sedentary when you're older. And honestly, that's what changed my whole perspective. Was I moved out west when I was younger, and I was in this gorgeous place, and I went on a hike with a friend, and I was dying. My legs were shaking. I was so out of shape. I wasn't necessarily like super overweight, but I was just not in shape. I wasn't doing anything. And I just said to myself after that hike, I was like, I am not going to live in a place like this and feel completely miserable doing this stuff. I do not want to feel like crap doing things that I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been since then the motivator. Like, looking good in a bikini's great, right? But like also it's like doing the things that you love to do and not feeling like terrible when you're doing them was kind of the big motivator for me. And I think strength training definitely lends itself to that,
I think that's why a lot of people won't go hiking, is because they feel like shit when they do it.
Yes.
And
yeah,
they're not
totally.
able to really appreciate what they're looking at.
right.
They're just like, oh my God, I'm about to die.
I'm dying.
Yeah, and
I
so-
was like that. I was like, if a bear ate me right now, I would be happy. I would be well. I think I'm dying, So like,
Get me out of my
I
misery.
get that mentality too of being like, this sucks,
Exactly.
We moved back here. What year was that?
It was
16?
2012. It's almost to the day,
Yeah,
which is
almost to the
Today?
day. So
almost.
we moved back to West Virginia. We lived in Florida for a while, and
Yeah.
we were very, very, very out of shape.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, there are all kinds of trails out here at Twin Falls State Park. We should go out there and do some hiking. And I think the first trail that we went on was a 3/4 mile trail, and we were all just wiped out.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-boggling. Isn't it?
And
It is. We have photos of
we
that.
have photos of the
printed
of that,
out,
yeah,
actually.
Yeah, of that first hike. And then, we would go on subsequent hikes, and we got up to 6-7 mile hikes by the end of it when we were hiking a lot.
And there were
So-
certain trails that were helping me test my my strength or my
physical fitness.
Yeah, because there were hills where I was like, if I can go all the way up this mountain without stopping, then I'm cool. And I've done that several times, and then I can tell when I knock back down a little bit, I have to stop a couple times. But it's just this perfect, nice grade, and you can go straight up.
But challenges your body in a way that
Oh, yeah.
lets you.
Yeah, and see, that's a much better indicator than looking at the scale and being like, oh, I've gained a couple pounds. That means it's so much better to look at things that you can do. Okay, like, I usually can make it here. I can't do that now. Maybe it's time to like buckle down a little bit, right? Like, again, like bringing it back to that, I think so many people focus on that, or like, I was this way in high school. Well, guess what? We're like not in high school anymore.
And
Yeah,
that may not have
things
been a healthy way
change.
for you then either.
Right.
Right.
And we had little adolescent bodies then, So we're moms now. We've had kids. We've done the thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's just different. And I think those are huge indicators of success, or hitting goals and things like that, or just like how your clothes fit. How do you feel? Can you hike this that you're used to doing? Like, things like that, I think, are what we need to be focusing on more
I
instead of
bet
just.
there's some skinny people that I could probably beat
I was
going up
just
the
going to
mountain.
say that, actually. That was exactly my next
Totally.
point. When I went to Colorado, I hung out with people who had lived there for a long time, and these were the folks that would say, hey, you want to go for a bike ride on Saturday? And they meant up the front of the Flatirons. I thought they meant through Boulder. Right. So,
Right.
like, it was a different
They're like, oh, we're going for a little bike ride.
But even those people who skied a lot and did a lot of stuff outside, we were at Red Rocks for a concert, and I was with a friend. And if you've ever been to Red Rocks Amphitheater, you can take the long way up, or you can cut kind of up these steeps in between the switchbacks, right? Like any mountain road
like
or
me and
whatever.
Laura Lee
Yeah.
did the other day.
So I'm with this girlfriend, and she's a skier. She's in my mind, very physically active. But they were all my friends were like 20 years older than me. I was in my 20s, and they were my age now. And I go scurrying up one of these cuts, and I turn around and look, and she is not behind me. She is at the bottom, struggling to even get her footing. And it occurred to me in that moment that, like, I have a training from these mountains, from like hiking as a kid in these mountains. My muscles are conditioned differently because it was just part of my life, playing in the woods, right? And she came from the city, from somewhere in New York, and then as an adult came to fitness and doing things, and her conditioning was just completely different. And the agility I have, like my sister even said that, she's like, damn, you impress me in the woods because you're a goat. I'm like, because
she's like, you're like a goat.
I challenge myself. I really put myself in places that nobody else goes. When I forage in the tough places that able-bodied people struggle to get to, and let other people find the other spots. But that's part of my drive. That's what I love, is like those instances. But it's shocking that people who you perceive as being in really good shape can still be not in good shape,
Yeah, and what's interesting too is, like, we talk about this a lot. Like,
oh my God, your hair's gorgeous, by the way.
Like,
she's gorgeous.
There's all this long hair just came out from behind you. Like,
my fan.
Gorgeous.
So being in like biking shape is completely different than being in like running
weightless,
shape.
right?
Or,
Absolutely,
it
different
really does depend
muscles.
on, like, you what?
It's different muscles that are being used, right?
Yeah. And training too should be tailored to what you're trying to do, right? So, like, and Derek talks about this a lot. But if you're trying to train for, like, to run, trail run, or a marathon, you're going to train differently than you're going to train if you're like, I just want to be in like generally good shape or whatever.
Well, you said
right?
mobility.
And that's what I was, one thing I wanted to say is that a lot of people, if they just do some mobility, just like 4 or 5 of the mobility exercises that you guys gave me, that would help out a lot for a lot of people. Because when we were doing that trip with everybody, and it wasn't Meg, it's the other one. I can't remember her name. Oh my God, and she's going to get so mad. The one that hung out with Davis, they would go out in the mountains and everything. That's always, adventuring out farther than the group. Well, that night, and I was doing I did the 90-90, and I was trying to do some of the other mobility because we had been like moving around and like camping and just
in and out of a car,
in and out
constantly.
of cars and hiking up mountains and stuff. And she was like, let me do some of those. And I could like stretch, and I'm like doing this, and she goes, how do you do that? And I'm like, you got to keep stretching your muscles.
And she's a college student.
She's a college student.
Probably not even in her 20s.
Yeah, and she couldn't get all the way down. I'm like, girl, you need to get your mobility or you're going to be hurting here in about 10 years. So,
we lose a lot of that as we age, and it's just your body repatterns itself. If you don't put yourself in these full ranges of motion, especially nowadays where so many of us work at a desk, we're hunched over a computer, we're under artificial light all day.
This whole side of my body is jacked.
It just makes it so much. You just have to be a little bit more intentional with it. And even if it's, like you said, just in small doses, I'll have clients where I'll tell them, if you can get up for 5 minutes, an hour, and like walk around the building, or, do some mobility stretches in the floor or up against the wall, that little doses of that adds up over time, and we can repattern your body to move in those fuller ranges of motion, which is going to improve your ability to do all the outdoor things that you love. But it also has a carryover to strength training too, because we are activating muscles, and especially if you aren't doing much as far as strength training, that's going to be a novel stimulus for you, and you can actually build muscle by just doing body weight movements like that.
It helped me, and it helped build the muscles that you're not building normal day to day, walking around doing your normal stuff,
right.
And then you do these mobility, and you're hitting muscles. You're like, shit, I didn't know there was a muscle there. You're like, damn, okay. So it's very helpful. mobility, just to try the mobility part would help people. And one thing I wanted to add, because we were talking about staying active is going to help you in the long run. My dad is almost 80 years old. He turned 78 in August. He has black lung, right? Mm-hmm. But his heart is so strong because this man worked and went and always just go. His heart muscle is so strong that that's what's keeping him going right now. And so it's just a testament that, it may be some genetics, but the way that man moved and kept going and was not sedentary is the reason why he's able to live as long as he is.
Yeah. Well, we were
that's huge.
Yeah. We were just talking too about, when you start a fitness plan, or like you said, even hiking or whatever it is, and you're just like absolutely miserable, and you're like, well, this, people don't feel good. And so then they're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. This is miserable. But it's like working out consistently will make you feel good doing these things eventually, right? So it's kind of like we said earlier, like what comes first, like the chicken or the egg, because people don't want to work out because they're like, it sucks. But
if they knew how good they'd feel, right?
People will say, I don't work out because I have low energy. Well, then we could say, well, one of the reasons you have low energy is because you're not working out. You're not eating nutrient-dense foods. And so something's got to give in the beginning, and it's going to be a little bit of discomfort. But one of the things I wanted to add also to what we were talking about previously is, when you use performance as a metric, I think that's very powerful. And at the end of the day, if all of us would love to look better. We obviously want to be healthy, but the spice of life is doing the things that you love for as long as possible. And if you can improve your ability to do that, fuel your body for those activities, do the training that helps you perform those activities more enjoyably, and even like upgrade the activities that you're doing. The byproduct of that is that we do usually end up liking the way we look better. We look better on the beach. We feel better. Our sleep improves. And so all these things, you become more confident. All these things kind of go hand in hand. So it's really magical what happens when you kind of put the scale aside, put the way you feel like you look in your bathing suit in the mirror aside, and really just focus on getting strong and improving your performance. And that's why I love setting little like performance goals rather than like weight goals, because I think that's from a mentality standpoint is helpful for people, and you end up getting both as a result.
Well, and like Lindsay, like you were talking about your dad, he's not like, oh, how do I look? You know what I mean? Because he just worked so much for so long that his body is still, performing well for him, even as an 80-year-old man, because it wasn't, I'm sure it wasn't looks based, and it was just like working hard. And that's kind of what happened,
he had a job to do, and that's what he was
doing. That's all he cared about.
But you can tell the physiques of the local folks here, because I think about my dad and how he's built and how he's has a very active farm lifestyle, and he's rolling back what he does because of age. And I just want to say this, and I've said it a couple times, age is the most real thing I've ever felt. I'm at a point now where I'm like, cells are dying. I feel it. Joints are stiffening up, right? Like I feel like age, and I really, it doesn't bother me, but I'm going to try not to do it when I get older. When I talk to older folks about age, I always get the, well, wait till you get to this age, right? Okay. But I'm at this age now, and I'm kind of curious, like, what was it like at your age, But I feel like everybody's like, well, just wait till the next awful thing happens, right? As you age.
Well, and that's another, like, mentality thing, too, right?
Totally. And it's like, I understand it. You've earned it. Trust me. I get it. Like, I'm at that age where I totally give you homage for another 20 years, because damn, right?
Yeah. Really right.
Well, and I was just going to add, and we were talking about body dysmorphia earlier, and that, you kind of had to coach me through a little thing. And always when I have those moments, I remind myself that I'm an absolute beast right now.
For
at least
sure.
Comparatively. I was pretty sedentary my entire life. I played a little basketball in high school, believe it or not, and I was 240, 250 in high school. And, but right now, I could run that kid into the ground.
Yep.
And
That's something to be proud of.
And I can run circles around 95% of the men here
Hands down.
in this county, in the state.
Hands
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that physically I am way above where I should be as a 46-year-old man.
Southern West Virginia
Living in-
man.
Yeah.
Living in
Right,
so
right.
I have to remind myself that. And then when I see that I am running circles around these men that, are quote unquote tough guys, then I have to remind myself that, hey, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And I mean, the bottom line is, yes, we're all aging. We're going to lose muscle as we age. There's for sure age-related things that are going to happen to us that we have little control over, but we have a big say in a lot of it. And there's a huge difference between, we know people in their late 60s, early 70s, who you would think that there's a 20-year separation between them just based on how they've taken care of themselves, in their 30s and 40s. And so will we ever be, have the capabilities that we did in our 20s again? Maybe not, but we can still be that 60 or 70-year-old that can still hike up a mountain, that can still, do yard work,
You
and
guys
still
should
do all
see
the
these
stuff that we
Colorado
love.
folks out here, our
Yeah,
neighbors and
it's
stuff
wild.
that are in their 70s, just like,
Right.
Trucking
freaking
along.
ass,
Goals.
man.
Yeah.
Goals.
And our-
Mountain biking and doing all
Now
that.
their skin is much more leathery than those of us in the South, and I did notice that like being in that
Yeah.
environment does age you differently.
Yes,
But
you guys, I'm really scared of that, but yes.
and I say that my
Right.
vanity. That's one reason I came back to the South was the dewy
Totally.
air, But
Things are drying out over here.
But
yeah,
you're
for-
absolutely right. Those men and women that are like these little wiry muscles, and you see them and they just every part of their lifestyle is feeding their body, or they consciously make decisions. And I've started doing this, and I've told you, one of the reasons my arms are in the shape they are is because I clean my floors. I don't buy Rumba, and I have the type of floor that everybody's like, well, you should get a Rumba, right? And I'm like, yeah, but when I sweep it and mop it, that's
Yeah.
my arm workout for the week, right?
Plus it's cleaner, better.
It gets cleaner, better, and it's just I've found ways to integrate exercise into my daily life in a way that works
Yeah.
for me.
And I think that's key. And it was interesting because somebody brought this up earlier, just the cultural difference between like the South and then other places too. Is it's interesting because I do feel like it is more difficult sometimes, like just accessibility to things in the South is a lot different than here. So it's kind of harder sometimes to incorporate things into your daily life that you can do. We can step out our backyard and we're on a trail here, whereas where we came from was not, it was like we had to drive an hour to hit a trail somewhere or something like that. So I think if you don't have that accessibility, it's key to incorporate things like that, where you can be like, okay, I can go up an extra couple flights of stairs. I can mop with, this thing, or like whatever you need to do to kind of get a little bit more activity in that you don't do normally. So
I just want to make a comment about the stairs because I love this. I commuted from Lyons to Denver, and I worked in downtown Denver, and my commute was I'd walk down 2 blocks to get to the little bus, and the little bus drove me to Boulder, where I got in the transit station on the big bus. I took the big bus all the way to Denver, where I got on the trolley, and I rode the whole trolley all the way to 16 blocks, and then I had to walk uphill 3 blocks. So I would do that, and if I was feeling froggy, I'd take the 9 flights of steps up to my office. And so by the time I got to my office, I was like
sweating.
and I would walk by my very Greek, very hungover often boss with his cup of coffee and his dark sunglasses on, and he'd watch me walk by and he'd say, why do you do that to yourself? And I'd be like, because it's good for me. I was 25, 26, 27 years old, but on the days where I felt good, I would do that. There were days where I would literally get in my car and ride all the way and drive through the drive-through on the way there. And,
Yeah. Sometimes Lindsay would, text me and be like, I don't have it today. I'm like, don't do it then.
Don't do it.
It's okay sometimes. It can be a slippery slope, right? If you're just like have days upon days of like, okay, it's an off day again. Like clearly that's not like the goal. But just doing kind of what you can, right? Like if you are like, I don't have it in me today to do like a whole big damn thing, do a little damn thing, right? Like do a 20-minute thing. I think especially after I had kids, because before I had my son, I was like, go. Like I got to spend an hour and a half in the gym. I got to be sweating and dying and feeling terrible when I leave the gym. So because that means I got a good workout, you know? And now it's very much like after I had him and he's like an infant, I'm like, oh shit, I have like 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I did was my 10 minutes or, oh, I could find a little time while he's napping or this or that. And so you really have to kind of like adapt things to like where you're at. And even now I have days where I'm like, I'm spent. I can't today. And I just don't. And I don't feel bad. Like I feel fine about it, you know?
Before we forget, I do want to say, how do folks find you? What is your information? Like, do you all have a website or a Facebook page? How can we get a hold of you?
Yeah, so we don't really have an official website, which that's probably something I need to work on, but you can find us on Instagram at minimalist.gym. I do a lot of our marketing on Facebook, so just my Facebook page is Derek Schell. We've got a couple private Facebook groups too, so if anybody's interested in that, they can just shoot me a message and we'll get you in there. But yeah, we do a lot of put out a lot of our resources in terms of guides and workouts and nutritional information and stuff like that. We do challenges periodically. We're actually getting ready to launch a 4-week challenge here next week, and so all that information is pretty plastered all over our social media. So
yeah, and you're actually a sponsor of this podcast, whether you know it or not.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the podcast, we've got your logo, and we do a little spiel for you, and it's got your IG handle on it. So
awesome.
We appreciate you for that.
Yeah,
You guys are the first sponsors to be a guest.
Yeah.
Am I right?
You guys are trying to keep us healthy, so that's the least we could do.
For real. And I just have to say, I've been wanting to say thank you to Derek so many times because I would tell Tom things and he'd be like, hey, you don't believe me? I'm like, you're looking good. It's fine. You're doing great. Like he's doing good. And Derek would say,
"That's your job as his wife of 2 decades plus." He's like, "Honey, you have to tell me that."
Right.
Like I don't.
But I try to tell him like, "Hey, you're in much better shape. You can wear this. I would try to give him all these measures, and he just don't believe me."
Took Derek.
Then Derek would say something, and I'd be like, "Oh, Jim guy says it, so it's true."
Sometimes you just need another source.
Yeah,
it is. He has to have a second source, second opinion.
I'm a journalist. Okay, I don't run with anything without at least 2 sources. Okay, so
that's so funny.
But
journalism 101.
That's right. At least 2 sources. You like to have 3. Okay,
Tom, you're looking amazing.
All right. Now I believe you.
Looking good.
Right, I got 4.
Lindsay told y'all to say that.
Let's print it. So, no, what I saw a video just yesterday that said that West Virginia was the most obese state in the union, and I believe it. I believe it wholeheartedly.
I think it's up there with Mississippi. I know Mississippi's been in that.
They're in the running.
Held that prize at one point in time too. But yeah, the South in general does not unfortunately have a great track record as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Why do you think that is? Why do you think West Virginia in particular is the most obese state? Is it our food deserts? Is it that culturally we love the sausage gravy and biscuits and fried taters and
which was my downfall when I moved back from Colorado. It was like, oh, biscuits and gravy.
We're not getting out and doing our garden anymore.
Culturally,
eating our own food.
Right? Yeah. Nobody really grows
We're
a
eating
garden
a lot of
anymore.
processed food. I think poverty has a lot to do with it.
And
A
then
lot of people
it's all
say that
those
Yeah. The
Combination.
answer to all of it is yes. It's all of the reasons that we're listing, I think. Yeah.
Well, and first off, too, I actually just pulled up some statistics before we got on here.
Nice.
I mean, the whole country is overweight. We between obesity rates and what's considered overweight, which I think is over like 25 BMI, something like that. Which those numbers are a little bit skewed.
Sure.
Like anyone who's really muscular is going to have a high BMI.
yeah,
But we're
I saw
close to
160.
75% of the country is either obese or overweight. Obviously, those numbers are a little bit higher in the South too. And I definitely think it's, a lot of cultural in terms of, the food is very rich. It tends to be, fried foods, fatty foods, a lot of casseroles. There's a rich tradition behind that. There's also an expectation to eat all your food when it's on your plate. Don't disappoint grandma by not eating all of this delicious casserole and this
Yeah,
half
get
cherry
seconds.
pie that she served you.
Yeah, honey, get you another plate.
God.
Yeah.
Grandma
That
to the-
hospitality kind of can
Yeah.
do you.
And she had a grandmother who was, that fit into that perfectly. She grew up during the Great Depression where you didn't waste food.
Right.
And food was more scarce. And so obviously we're not really in that situation anymore.
And she was also a working woman, and so
Yeah.
it was all processed, quick stuff. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
it was like she was in the 50s, like working and all of those things, and that's kind of when the tide turned. And we're not getting those like home, cooked from the garden, farm to table meals anymore.
The microwave, the microwave foods, the easily
Yeah,
processed
she was a big
foods.
microwave cook and finish all your food, and so that doesn't always jive great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also eating when you're hungry. I mean, that's another thing is culturally, I know, we have this 3 meal a day kind of timing thing, but I'm one of those folks that I'm not really hungry until later in the day. Like I get up and I'm if I have a piece of fruit or something like that, I'm good till almost noon. And I have learned to work with that. Like it's an extended fasting period for me. Like I break my fast later in the day out of hunger as opposed to conditioning that I have to eat because it's breakfast time, right? And so kind of unlearning some of those habits, but our culture is so structured around like this breakfast, lunch, dinner paradigm that it's hard to break out of it. Like lunch is a business thing, right? You eat at a certain hour and very often it's tied to business and you have to do certain things. So it's like there are so many cultural things that play into that are not necessarily negative, but as a combination create obesity and create unhealth. Unwellness.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just a lack of knowledge and education too around the caloric density of different foods. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning in terms of feeling like you're eating a lot. People equate volume of food to be a lot of calories, whereas you can eat a very little volume of food if it's like one of those little bags of chips or a sleeve of Oreos or something like that. And it ends up being a lot more calories than a huge plate of grilled chicken and rice and broccoli would be.
Right.
And so just not having that knowledge, we have so much more food available to us now that we didn't used to have to make these decisions. It used to be, we ate when we were hungry, we ate what was available because food's not always available. Food's more convenient than it's ever been before. And the convenient food is typically the lower nutrient dense and more calorie dense. So unless you're being proactive, unless you're kind of going out of your way to shop for whole foods, to prepare foods at home, I think that's where a lot of people get themselves in trouble is there's just not a lot of, structure around that. And so between that and then just us being less active than we've ever been.
I think too now, food companies are packaging things as healthy as well that are like, oh, these are high protein Cheerios, or oh, this is
the
just
protein
some
trend
bowl.
drives me crazy. They'll slap protein on anything now, and people think it's
Or
it's good for them
I've
now.
seen low calorie Oreos and things like that, and so people are like, oh, it's healthy, it's low calorie Oreos, and it's like it's still Oreos.
Yeah, it's still Oreos. You still have to count those calories.
Yeah.
Right.
I learned Greek yogurt. Oh my God. Greek yogurt, frozen fruit bags,
Delicious.
Yeah.
and granola. And there's protein granola. So I can eat Greek yogurt, protein granola, and some fruit. And it's like
You can live off
20. I do live off
Yeah,
of it.
she does.
I live off of it.
Unless I cook, I'm
and
the
Tom
chef.
is an excellent cook. His food is
Yeah.
amazing.
I hate cooking.
and he's really good at it.
Yeah. So but she would eat Greek yogurt 3 times a day.
Just give me some Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
I think too, it's important to not overcomplicate things because people think like when we talk about meal prep, people are like, okay, now I got to think of all these recipes for all this like meal prep that I have
Chicken,
to do. And
veggies, rice.
Derek and I eat very similar things every day. We don't like on weekends we'll branch out and have some whatever, like maybe.
Yeah.
What
We
is an
make
exciting
what's quick
food? I'm
and easy.
curious. What is
What
one
was
of your
that?
branch out foods? You said, I don't know, we might have what is one of your.
Well, we just meant like burgers and fries or
Right.
like tacos, things like that.
We'll make
Like
pasta, or not make the
pasta,
pasta, but
like-
we'll have like a pasta dish sometimes
Yeah.
with like a meat sauce.
yeah, like
But
it's
typically, our version of meal prep is I'll cook 3 pounds of ground beef and a pot of rice, and
We
we'll
put it in a
mix
bowl
that,
with
we'll
other
mix that with
stuff.
frozen vegetables.
Throughout the week.
And we'll do that throughout the week, and that's pretty much what we eat for lunches and dinners. And we tend to just cook in bulk when we do cook dinner, so that we have leftovers for the next day's lunch. And I think that's huge for people. Is you're going to eat what's available and what's convenient to you. And so if you do a little planning ahead, and that doesn't have to mean spending an entire Sunday shopping and chopping vegetables and cooking, because we don't do that shit either. That's not feasible for our lifestyle. But we'll just make most of our proteins in bulk, and we'll make large bags of potatoes at a time. We'll cook a big pot of rice. We use a lot of frozen vegetables, and then we'll just build meals of that throughout the week. And then like Laura said, on the weekend we might go out to dinner once. We might go and buy something that's a little bit out of the norm and have a nicer dinner. But yeah, if you keep it simple and you make it convenient for yourself to eat high quality nutrient dense foods, then you're gonna have a much higher likelihood of success and of sticking with it long term.
But guys, we do eat like ice cream sandwich every night or
there's
something
nothing-
like that. It's not like it's just
That's
per
what I
day,
love,
per
though.
day, right?
That's what I love is that you're like you eat good food that you like, as long as it has protein, as long as you hit your calories, and eat the damn candy bar. If you want it, don't deprive yourself of something, because as soon as you deprive yourself of anything, when you're able to get it, you're going to go crazy on it. So, what is the term?
Moderation.
Moderation is key.
Right.
Yeah. It's like what you're doing most of the time is what matters. So, and that way you have room for that crappy stuff you want to eat every now and then, or you have the vacation for a week where when we vacation, I throw everything out the window. I'm like, I'm not doing a damn thing, and I'm going to eat all the shit I want to eat. And, Derek is not like that. He's more structured with it.
Still do the same
That's
thing.
my
I'm
excuse.
I do not lose 1 ounce of sleep over that. I am like, I do good most of the time.
Live
and
your
I
life.
feel great about eating crap on vacation the whole time.
You
know?
gotta
So-
you gotta live your life. You gotta be happy,
Yeah.
be healthy, do what you can, move, eat your protein, and
Totally. It's not as complicated as we like to try to
Right.
but it is.
not.
Even though these are things that I know on a daily basis, I struggle with it. I don't do it, and a lot of times all I need is for you to be like, just get up and move for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Go add a little
You got this.
extra.
Just go
make
do what you can.
Make you a grilled chicken, piece of grilled chicken for lunch.
Yeah.
Add a little extra protein. Move a little. It'll be okay. And that's what I love about you guys. And everybody just needs to go to Minimalist Gym.
I think Elise.
Aw, thanks.
I think Elise needs to get on the program, and
I think so, too.
So what I need.
follow the folks at
Yeah.
Minimalist Gym.
I've been trying to get Elise up.
Yeah,
over here
I'm
for a while.
interested in this 4-week challenge. I think that's something we can maybe do as part of our
Hey,
podcast.
you
I
can
was wanting to do that.
You can sign up today. Today is the cutoff.
God,
Is that right?
Is it the cutoff? I ain't
You have
signed up
until
yet.
tomorrow. The kickoff calls at it'll be 7 Eastern,
Okay.
5 my time. So you have
All right.
until then. I'll
right,
probably, if I know myself, I'll probably allow sign-ups for the weekend. But I like to give everyone that.
I feel like I know somebody there, so I could probably maybe get some
Probably
lead.
Do you got some poll? Can I sign up a little late?
But I also want to just acknowledge that I'm an Aries and I get really excited about stuff in the beginning, and it's hard. The follow through is
Well,
really
I
hard.
do the same thing.
That's why I have you. Like, you're my grounding Capricorn who keeps me on task. You're like, do your thing. Do your
I
thing.
need somebody to ground
What's
me.
great with like challenges are awesome too, because it's like it really gets you going in the direction when you go. All right, you're not going to completely change your entire body in 4 weeks, right? But you're going to have that like knowledge in it and all the things to the momentum's going, and you're like, okay, this feels good after 4 weeks. Let's keep going. So I love a challenge. I think they're
I'm
super
ready.
fun.
And you're in a group, right? And there's group calls, and everybody kind of
I know I have to because you were
commiserated,
telling me.
and so it's everybody's like going through this pain together, right? For the greater good.
Totally.
Yeah.
And usually if somebody has a question, it's a question for everybody. Everybody's like, yes, I felt that way too. Or, oh, this is a struggle for me too. So it's nice to have that support with other people that are like in it with you,
Yeah, the community aspect of it, I think, is
fun.
the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps keep people going when they feel like they have that community support and they feel like other people are, depending on them. And we humans, we all have this terrible flaw where we tend to value the time and the opinions of others more than we do ourselves. So we'll let ourselves down every day of the week, but if we feel like we're letting somebody else down, we're going to be less likely to do that. And
we're tribal.
It's
very
tribal. You don't want to get kicked out of the group. That's the worst thing that can
Or
happen.
shunned.
So,
we won't kick you out, but
You'll get shunned
You
a
get
little bit.
voted off the island,
Right.
Tom, wrong
Totally.
podcast.
Oh, okay, my bad. That's the other podcast.
We got the crossover happening.
Yeah.
We want to be
Right.
respectful of your time. It's 7:00. So if you
Yes.
guys are ready to go, what last things would you like to let us know or hear from you before we sign off?
Just that, I mean, like we were talking about, all this stuff is relatively simple, not easy, mind you. So give yourself some grace. We're all starting from somewhere, and just try to make small steps each day. One of the things that we talk about with our newer clients is let's just try to minimize the 0 days. And by that, I mean the days where absolutely nothing went right. And we also tend to need to redefine what that means. People look at a day that they didn't do everything completely right and think that's a complete failure. But then when we dig into it, we find out, well, you did go for a 10-minute walk and you had protein in 2 out of the 3 meals. So you're not perfect and you never need to be, but just making small steps each day and just going into each day with that mentality of just trying to get 1% better. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so, most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a 4-week or 6-week challenge and drastically underestimate what can happen in 12 to 18 months of just solid consistency and just trying to get a little bit better each day.
Yeah, for sure. I think sometimes that all or nothing mentality can kind of kill it for us. Like we were talking about, like Lindsay, you were saying something happens and I'm off and then I stay off of it and that's it. But the thing is, life happens to all of us. It is never perfect. It is never great timing and everything doesn't always line up. And we always say, the difference between people that really hit their goals or are in shape or like whatever it is they have those moments too and they fall off, but they get back on like pretty quickly. Right. So it's all just about, consistency over time. So you got to give yourself that time too. So I think that's important.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Time, patience, and perseverance. Shout
That's
out
right.
to Dad.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Dad.
All
Right.
right.
Good one. I like that.
We love you, Dad.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
Yes.
We'll see you.
Yeah. Thank
know,
you guys
we'll be
for
around.
We'll be pushing out
everything.
the
and
challenge and letting folks know
Thanks for
about
having
that.
us.
yeah, we're going to be
Yeah.
doing the challenge and we'll be talking about it.
I would love that. You guys definitely should. And thank you guys for letting us come on. We love your podcast. You guys are really keep fighting the good fight. I think you guys are awesome and
Yeah.
keep
So-
telling the truth, man.
Thank you. We will.
So, pitch your podcast. I know
Yes.
you guys got a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Tell people where to get your
started,
podcast.
So
We just started.
It is what it is. I like it. I've been listening,
Yeah.
Good.
even though
Nice.
Most of that stuff you guys have already told me.
I already know this.
Yeah.
I support my friends. Let's go.
Thanks, Al. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, the show's called Fitness Forever. No, what did I call it? I've changed the name so many times. Fitness for Life. Sorry. I don't even know the name of my own
Hold on, I'll find
Send me,
it.
yeah.
Fitness for life.
Fitness for Life with the number 4. And yeah, we talk about all things health and fitness, specifically for busy parents in their 30s and 40s. So finding the time for fitness, how to structure your diet, and all the trials and tribulations there within. So we're about, I think,
Very
8
cool.
episodes deep now. So
Yeah.
we're hopefully going to get on track and start releasing at least 1, hopefully 2 a week here pretty soon. So
It's
yeah.
harder than it sounds. I think that we really make an effort to produce content, but it's tough, because
You
life
get
is
tired,
life,
man.
but-
I mean, people think that this is an easy thing to do, but this isn't. When this is just like something that you do and you still have to, pay your bills.
Yeah, there's life around it.
A
right?
whole life.
Just like working out. It's
Yeah.
you got to find time.
This
for
is
it.
a lot more time than working out. I'm telling you, I could already been stretched out and done by now. I'm just saying.
But podcasts are the way that our generation is kind of coming to this information. And I think what you said about us, we're creating this space where local folks have a voice that they don't have otherwise, that they can reach the entire world. And
Yeah.
the fact that we're kind of have this overlapping, and I would love to see more people in Appalachia get healthy. I really would
Yeah.
love to see
Same here.
good hometown folks who are from here helping us find our way back to our better selves.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think, yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
a podcast, and it's something that we can point folks to. And if you're feeling down, look at this. And somebody made a comment to me the other day about getting trauma skinny. And I thought so many of us have that experience. We know what that's like here in particular. So how can we kind of flip that around, right? To be, instead of trauma skinny, change that
I've been
narrative.
trauma skinny and trauma fat.
you can be
I've
both.
been both.
Mostly trauma fat.
I mean, I
as
do
far as
both. It all depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes I eat my feelings, and sometimes I just forget to eat because I'm just worried
Right.
about whatever
So
situation.
being intentional, right, in
Yeah.
our wellness and our well-being. So and if you all make it back this way for vacation or whatever, please let's connect and get
I
together.
would love
Let's go on a
that.
hike.
Yeah, we still have friends there in Lewisburg, and I was like, if we go, we just
Perfect.
definitely need to stop by and.
I have a
see you
rental
guys.
on Friesland Mountain that we will leave open and provide for you. That is a great little spot. And
love it. Well, same
Oh.
to you guys. If you guys are ever out here, you got to hit us
Absolutely.
up. It's a place to stay, So
Yeah,
definitely.
totally.
Don't tell me that because I'll be on my way to Colorado.
it's spectacular.
Come on,
And
girl.
Durango,
I'm getting
Durango is
in my truck now.
particularly beautiful. Durango is a particularly beautiful.
We've been to
It-
Denver once,
Yeah,
It's not Durango, I assure you.
and I
been
drove
through
to
the-
Boulder.
Durango's different.
Also pretty, but Durango is like you cross mountains into this magical dip where it's you got to go.
And relative to Denver, where are you?
We're southwest.
In the corner,
from-
literally.
Wow.
So
Down in the
you're
corner.
already past the Rockies. You go over
Yep,
the
you go
Rockies,
over
and
the
you're
pass,
like
yeah.
towards
Yeah, we're right,
the desert.
past, it's like the San Juan Mountains, and then you come down. We're right kind of in the middle.
That's what I'm saying. Like you come down into Durango
Yeah,
into like
that's-
Down
this
into the
magic valley.
Yeah, but you can be up in
Gorgeous.
like the high country in 20 minutes with the big picturesque like San Juan Mountains that
Yeah.
you think of, and
All right, I'm going.
kind of the edge of the
Okay, I'll
desert.
see y'all. I'll see y'all. What
Yeah.
in like a
Yeah.
couple days?
Yeah.
All right.
right on the edge, right on the edge of the desert, right?
you got it. Yeah.
I drove from from LA one time into Colorado, and we stayed at a little town called Parachute.
Yeah, it's on the
I
western
don't know,
western slope. right?
Yeah, so I've been here and there, in my
Yeah.
broadcast.
I still have a
production
law
career.
license out there. I might pop out there and
There you go.
set up shop. One
Hey,
of these
if
days.
you need
If
a
you all need
lawyer,
a lawyer,
No, I used to. I'm not.
I thought you said you still did.
I thought,
It's
yeah.
inactive. I mean, they don't let me
Oh.
practice. I don't.
I mean, what do you got to do? Pay a fee?
Uh huh.
Oh,
It's like,
Probably still know more law than we do.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Look,
I
you
can
pay your
wing
fee
it.
and you need a lawyer.
I did pass that bar exam on the first try.
Hell yeah, you did. Hell yeah.
Thank y'all so much. I'm looking forward to more conversations with you guys.
I would love that. Thanks for having
here.
us, guys.
Minimalist
thank you.
Gym. Thank you.
Yes. Thank
See
you,
ya.
y'all.
Y'all take care.
Keep in touch.
Appalachian Livin is sponsored in part by Wade Law Firm PLLC, Sage Stitch Finance Corporation, representing wisdom and mending what we already have, providing gap funds for resilient renovations.
Appalachian Livin is also brought to you by Hope Money Coaching, rescuing you from financial chaos and leading you to a path of financial wellness. Minimalist Gym, helping men and women navigate their health and fitness without restrictive fad diets.